But the reality of it was that, you just didn't know who was going to be there in the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th pick. And so you had to sort of trust your people, obviously, in the meetings, discussing and hearing and listening to all the people that were that there had eyes on those players. But it wasn't really until later on when we really started to struggle and we were drafting much higher that I was more involved in actually seeing players and being able to speak more fluently about who we were drafting and why. And so, I mean, there's a lot of obviously, a lot of different cycles with the process because, that's at times you got a chance to pick real high, and at times you're picking not until much later. Now there is talent there, but the crapshoot becomes higher and higher. And listen, I think Erik was asking me a question about why not pay the money. I believed in paying the money, and I think when the slot system arose, I think that sort of slowed the process down for some of the players, some of the teams that were having a lot of success. And the Dodgers have done it. They burned it at both ends really, really well. Other teams have drafted extremely well and developed well, but it made it much more difficult on the teams that were having a lot of success at the major league level to continue to replenish their farm systems, which then made it so much more important to be able to do it internationally as well. So that was another piece of the pie that helped sort of replenish your system. And so a lot of it depends on what cycle you're in as a as an organization. But I always believe that, and Erik posed a great question because I always believe in trying to get the best talent and the most talented player. If there was any way to get them, that was the way to do it.
When you started picking higher and your scouts said, okay, we got to come out and see this guy, did you ever override those guys and go, I don't know, I really don't like that? Because, I mean, these guys are seeing 50, 60 high school at-bats. They're seeing 100 to 140 college at-bats. Were you that arrogant that you could say, I don't really like this guy in one day?
Not me. I mean, I thought I knew players. Was I arrogant? Yes, but not that arrogant. I mean, I think the reality of it is you have to hire the people to do their jobs, and you had to believe in them. And I was also one of those guys when we were in the room. I liked people to be passionate about their opinions. I wanted arguments. I wanted people to fight for a player or not fight for a player. I wanted to see these guys have some passion. Because that made me know that one, they cared, and two, they had real opinions. I always believed in the importance of people's opinions. I mean, the people who are working the front office in baseball, and this is something Pat Gillick used to talk about a lot, is that we are paid for our opinions. And if you don't give your opinion, you're not passionate about it, then I don't think that you're doing your job to the best of your ability. And so for me, it was about allowing the people who are in place to make those decisions to make them. Would I have some input? Yes. But I had to be very careful about how much input I had, because if all of a sudden the general manager is saying, hey, this guy, we got to have this guy and this guy and this guy, then it changes people's views. I mean, automatically people will start to change their thought process unless they're very headstrong. And I didn't want to be that guy necessarily. I did have my opinions, like to try to hold them towards the end, and I would express them. But certainly at the end of the day, I think it was really important to allow your people, the scouting director, to make the decision for the organization.
Those years where you were picking near the top, how close to the draft was it before you all had it kind of finalized of here's who we're looking at, here's who we want? Obviously, like in the case of Nola, you're hoping Nola gets there. You have to get to that point too. But like, there's so much, as you said, there's so many opinions, so much discussion that has to lead into that decision. But how important is it to get finalized a little bit in advance of the draft to where you do feel like you have a board? Do you have it really lined up, or is it more of like, this is our top group and then we'll see how the board, goes to get to our spot?
I think that we've definitively had our guys lined up. I mean, we lined them up: high school pitchers, high school hitters, college pitchers, college position players, and we lined them up what we thought was appropriately as far as their overall talent. And then, the signability piece, that would be factored in. Whether or not we thought this player really wanted to play, and whether he would play at this, whether he would go out if he was picked at this level. There was a whole lot of factors that would go down. But I remember, there was a time the one year that Christian Yelich ended up getting picked. We thought that we had him. Miami Marlins, I think it was Minnesota that passed on him. We had the information, the information was also really important. Like who are all the other teams ahead of us on? Which player are they going to take? Which guy? And trying to get your scouts out there to get the game that information was also very, very important and a tough thing to do because there was a lot of tight-lipped organizations out there. But I remember with the situation with Christian Yelich, we had him in our hand. We were getting ready to pick him because we thought that, I think it was Minnesota passed. We thought they were going to take him, and then we thought we were kind of free. But then the Marlins picked him ahead of us, and we ended up picking, I believe it was Jesse Biddle at that time, instead of Christian Yelich, just because he was picked by the Miami Marlins. So that's just stuff that happens. I think you try to line them up properly and hope that they fall to you. And we were in a position at that time that if the guy was there, we were going to take him, and we would try to do what we had to do to sign him.
Jesse Biddle of Germantown Academy had a little bit of a big league career, so that's a good pick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as a GM, if you knew, we asked Hunter Pence this before, if you knew somebody was going to have Hunter Pence's career, does he go 1-1?
I think that'd be fine. I mean, they'd be a great pick 1-1. I mean, listen, the draft is awfully, awfully difficult. You just don't know at the end of the day when a guy puts on a professional uniform what he is going to be. You can go through all the studies, you can do the background, you can do psych, studies, the whole 9 yards, but until that man is playing in a uniform away from home for the first time, likely, especially for those high school kids, you just don't know how they're going to react and how they're going to develop. And in this day and age, I think it's a little different. Obviously, they're kind of throwing guys through the minor leagues like it's nothing. I think it's because of their athleticism. I think there's a little bit of a detriment to the game and to the players that they're getting thrown through systems so quickly. I think for the fans, it's great because they're seeing immediate impact at times with some of the players, but everybody's got to develop at their own pace, and I don't see that happening as well. I see the athleticism, but the development piece of this becomes such an important part because guys have to learn how to play baseball. And if you're not playing enough baseball games, you're not learning how to play baseball. And, from the minute you draft that kid and you sign him to the time he gets to the big leagues, there's a lot of different things that you can do to impact that person. And I just don't see that in this day and age that they're getting enough time to be impacted in a way to be prepared to be major league players at a very, very high level.
It's a good take. Ruben, great insight as always, and people can check out Ruben on a variety of spots, but especially for the Phillies crowd, WIP on TV on NBC Sports Philly, and check out his Philly Show podcast as well with Jim Salisbury and with Todd Selecki. Ruben, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Great to talk as always.
Nice Phillies Bandit shirt too, Ruben.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
There it is. That's good. I like it.
Amaro
Ruben
Sports,
Amaro
don't
with
forget
us.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ruben. And before we get to break, a very special announcement. You might have caught it if you're following AJ Pierzynski on Twitter, but we want to shout out the newest member of UAB
geez.
Baseball.
Wow.
Let's go, Austin Pierzynski.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Pierzynski
Yeah, that has nothing
fam.
to do with the draft. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but congratulations.
Kind of,
It's huge news.
Sort of. But no, it's
huge
awesome.
news.
I'm happy for my
Yeah.
son. I'm happy that it took a lot off of him. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, Kratz knows. His kid's playing. His kid's going through right now.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks because we talk to these college coaches. They're talking about, JJ's talking about transfer portals and So you
The
go
worst
through a
time.
lot, man. Like you're trying to find a place where you can go play. It's not easy.
It's
They've
a tough
never-
time for freshmen.
They've never not played.
That's
They've
exactly.
never not played.
And they've
Your son
also
was
never
playing
not
in
been-
8th grade on varsity.
And
I
there's
think,
also
right?
not in a point where they've gone to a place and the place they're at is like you're not gonna play, so you have to go
Right.
somewhere else, right?
Right.
I mean, it's eye-opening experience. And listen, thank you to UAB and all the coaches there and everything that went down. And I'm happy for my son and see how it goes. He's got one more year of high school. I'm gonna enjoy that first.
you got a lot of traveling ahead of you. More than you already do.
That's
That's
that might be
possible.
impossible.
Unless it becomes 8-day weeks.
Oh man, for sure.
We can work on that.
We can get you a
I
PJ.
got a guy.
Yeah, Mark's paying.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark.
No, not the PJ. The 8th day. You got a better shot at the 8th day.
Oh, the Mark paying.
Yeah, we're going to work on that 8th day. But anyway, we're going to step aside. Couple guests left, and the draft is down to its final 10-ish picks from day one. We'll catch up on any notable picks from JJ as well, so stick around. Thanks for checking out this monster coverage of day one of the draft, the FT Takeover. What's up, FT fam? It's Scott Braun, AJ Pierzynski, Erik Kratz, and Baseball America's JJ Cooper. We're finishing up day one
JJ's
of the
about to
MLB
cry, by the
draft.
way.
Why? Because it's over?
The night's almost over.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, what do I do
They got
now?
2 more days.
There's 2 more days of the
We're
draft.
still-
That
Plus,
makes one of us, JJ.
we're doing
I'm
a
not gonna
special
lie.
hot sheet show from this very place on Tuesday. So we're going to have some fun with that. We will also have shows here on Monday and Tuesday, regular FT. We're looking forward to that. FT on Tuesday, by the way, will be a special time. It's going to be 3:30 to 5:30 local time, 4:30 to 6:30
Get your
Eastern time.
pregame on.
Get your pregame on, and we have some guests expected to join us tomorrow, some all-stars. I know I've heard, can I say it? The guy at the top of the show? Sure. Shota Imanaga is going to
Nice.
join us at the top of the show tomorrow,
Monday.
which is 1 o'clock normal FT on Valley Sports and on FT YouTube. So let's get caught up on any notable picks, right? We're not going pick by pick at this
Not
point.
going
We did
pick by
that in the
pick at this
first
point.
round. Just a name or two that's notable, JJ, as we get close to wrapping up here.
I love that the Braves took Vandy lefty Carter Holton. I just love it because the Braves are a team here who they have their lineup set. They have catcher, they have first base, second, third, center, right whenever he's not tearing his ACL, all set, and maybe left because they also have they've added Kelenic this year. So shortstop's about the only position that they don't have locked up long term. And so they just keep taking pitchers. It's just like, all we need, don't worry about the position players. Let's just take pitcher after pitcher after pitcher. They've done it at the top of the draft year after year after year, and can't really argue with it because then they've kind of had to push an A.J. Smith-Shawver or a Hurston Waldrop.
Have you seen Spencer Schwellenbach?
When they got hurt, Spencer Schwellenbach, who's like, I'm good, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Schwellenbach, who they drafted him as a pitcher, even though he was basically a shortstop in Nebraska who every now and then would come out of the pen. So that's one that jumps out to me. And then Tennessee's having, not surprisingly, a good second round. Billy Amick, Dylan Dreiling, both taken. Obviously, we've seen Christian Moore already taken. Not a shock that the national champs are having a lot of names called on draft day.
One more question for you, and then we're going to get our last guest in here. Baseball America did an article on who could crack the top 100 right now. Thought around maybe 10 to 12 players. So you want to fill us in on where we could eventually see these guys?
My guess is going to be 11.
So I said 10 to 12. I just wanted to nail the middle there.
That was a very, very good.
Okay.
So I'm going to split your difference and say 11. But no, we haven't. We won't do that meeting until after the draft's over. But we do BA grades, which are like a roll and a risk. And the way we do those is kind of designed to where we can kind of just slot guys in. So like we'll project like I'll actually call it up here. So like we have Charlie Condon projected as a 60 high. A 60 is an all-star player, but he's a college guy, so he's high risk, right? We put risks. We don't put low risk on anyone because low risk is Paul Skeens is maybe low risk now because he's actually an all-star starter. But like, the best players in baseball are low risk because they've already done it. These guys haven't done it yet. But so when you look at that, you could kind of make the argument for everyone down to about Christian Moore, who was 12th on our board, as potential top 100 guys. I would say that's probably the line that will probably – so that's anyone on our board of Christian Moore up is a top 100 candidate.
Okay. One more thing before we get to David Seifert, who's coming up soon. Futures game, because we probably won't have time for it tomorrow. We're going to be loaded with guests, and we haven't mentioned it. So the futures game went down yesterday. Kratz was there. The skills competition also happened yesterday. So go wherever you want to go, but you can go first. So you were there. Cam Collier won MVP of the futures game. So thoughts from that game, and I don't know if you can share that. You were sitting near some fams and you were seeing all the highs and lows of the game.
Yeah, I mean that's like the minor league highs and lows of like families enjoying it, but also like this is the next game. I'm sure they do the same thing when they go to Birmingham, when they go to Chattanooga, when they go to, in the sense of like they live and die for their young 19 to 21-year-old boyfriend, son, brother in the game. But so to see that, it was fun. Cam Collier was not only the MVP of the game, he was also the MVP of BP. The balls he was hitting out there, I was out there with Mark's son trying to get him a home run ball, and balls were getting launched. He was nuking baseballs. It was impressive. But for me, the skills competition, a few tweaks. They can't make the bunting worth so much because it kind of got a little boring. I heard fans yelling, "Swing the bat!" So there's a few tweaks in the first round. The second and third rounds of it, where it was call your shot and then home run derby at the end, basically, it was awesome. I don't think you need to have it off of a little jugs machine, though. We have some things to tweak.
Yeah.
But I think it's awesome.
I heard there were too much time in between certain parts of it too.
It was.
That would be my things are. It was too long. It was good, but it was too long. I agree on the bunting. That I don't mind bunting, but it needs to be not that if you hit a target 350 feet away, it's 4 points.
4 points.
And if you lay a bunt anywhere in a large circle, it's 8. Well, then that just makes everyone bunt. But we don't need draw the lines out there at the start of it and put the targets out there, and then just leave them all there. So we just go right from one thing to the next.
Or I would have said, that's when we get some throwing and some running in. Like if they need to set up, I need to see that. I need to see Chandler Simpson, top speed, get him on a whatever, radar, something.
I agree with you. I just think that farm directors and teams are like, we don't want that part. Like the throwing especially. But The second thing I would say, though, is again, because of the time, could we maybe like a little less? I felt like Roman Anthony had the moment of the home run derby. He was incredible.
Yep.
And then it was kind of like this almost deflating of a balloon. It's like, oh, now someone's got to come up who ended up hitting one home run. It's like, oh, okay. It felt a little like we've already been here. I think it almost took like from the end of the Futures game to the start of the Celebrity Softball game was probably over 2 hours, which probably just too much.
It was 30 minutes of setup. I think the bones of it are good, and I think it will really get awesome when they start trimming some of the fat.
Okay, it's a good report. Let's get to our next guest. David Seifert is joining us right now, former Philadelphia Phillies cross-checker, now director of college scouting for prep baseball and D1 baseball. It is great to have you on, David. How are you enjoying the draft?
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great to see you. So let's get your first take on the draft. If someone's asking you tomorrow, how was the draft? What stood out? What's your answer?
I don't know. I just the talent to me, for whatever reason, this year is way more exciting than years past. It seems like there's so many more teams having good drafts. I really like what the Orioles did. I mean, Vance Honeycutt was one of my favorite players, but I realize he has a 28% strikeout rate. I get it. That doesn't succeed in the major leagues, but the guy's an 80 defender. But Baltimore is doing what Baltimore does, and they're picking hitters. They got O'Farrell with their second pick, and they develop hitters, and they're going to flip them for pitchers. They got a plan, and they know what they're good at, and they're getting hitters. But I wasn't really surprised in the number one pick, Bazzana. I mean, it was Bazzana or Weatherholt for a deal, or maybe even Condon. My biggest steal so far would be Jack Kaggs. If you know me, you know I love Caglione. Just love the guy. And with Kansas City getting him with the 6th overall pick, for me, that's been the steal of the draft so far. And there's been a lot of really, really good picks. But it's for whatever reason, it's a way more exciting draft for me personally this year. There's way more teams that I think have really good plans and that are able to execute them. And being in a draft room for so many years, you're at the mercy of the board and how it falls. And it just seems like that board is falling really, really well for several clubs this year.
David, it's funny you say that about Caglione because JJ sitting to my left over here, he said it was the biggest bust pick of the whole draft. So I don't know which one's right or which one's wrong, but I tend to lean towards more what you said than what JJ said.
I think AJ's also had the biggest whopper of the night there. On that
which
one.
Is what?
But I think Kaggs is really good.
I've said this many times, but I mean, I've man crush on Kaggs, I guess, if you want to call it that. But Ohtani and Kaggs are the only two human beings walking the planet that can hit it over 120 and throw it over 100. And I know Kaggs' arm was a little sore there at the end, and it was more like 90 than 100. But, I mean, that's just rare. That's just special. And that's my guy. But, it's been a great draft. A lot of fun to follow.
I'll interject on that. Hunter Green he's going to raise his hand and say, hey, they don't let me do it anymore, but I was able to do it when they let me.
Yeah.
That's true. But then what's the rebuttal, okay? So what is the rebuttal to teams that skipped past him, the 5 teams that skipped past Jack Kaggs, and analysts that were concerned about the chase rate, and even though he's getting to some of those pitches, he improved his plate discipline, the walks went up, the whole deal, but clearly that was still costing him to an extent. And also, even AJ mentioned this, he's probably not going to pitch at the next level, even though the Royals say that for now. Was he going to pitch in the major leagues? So our team's saying, hey, this is a first base bat. Does that start to bring things down? You don't have the defensive versatility. I'm bringing up, some of the parts that people, I guess, are trying to throw against him. So how would you counter that and say, no, this is a top 3 guy in this year's draft?
I mean, for me, Kaggs is the only person, draft eligible or otherwise, the only person in Division I college baseball. He tripled his walk rate. He cut his strikeout rate down by more than half, and he raised his ISO. Nobody else did that. And this is a premier guy doing it in the SEC. So there's my counter. He's a 70 athlete. I mean, they don't make him like Jack Kaggs. There's nobody else on this. A lot of great players, a lot of guys I would have picked, but there's nobody on that list like him. You could make the argument Chase Burns is kind of similar. I mean, the guy has 370 grade pitches and is athletic as can be and throws 101. But for me, Tags, there's not another guy in the entire draft like him. I don't know. I just think he's a 4-hitter. He's going to hit 260, 270 with 40 home runs for a long time, many, many years. I know that's not much of a rebuttal. It's more my opinion, a little data there, but and I'm a big fan of Nick Kurtz as well, but I don't know how you take Kurtz over Cags.
Okay, David, I'll ask you on that one. You mentioned Kurtz. What about if we're comparing Condon and Cags? Because those are both SEC guys. What do you like about Cags over Condon if you're comparing those two guys head to head?
Oh, you got to read my tale of the tape on D1 Baseball from 3 years ago. Those are the two guys that actually laced him up on. I mean, Condon has the advantage over statistically. Condon is the guy. He beats Cags in almost every category except for whiff rate on breaking balls, whiff rate on changeups. But Condon beats Cags on the overall whiff rate, which seems that's the biggest thing. But it's just because Cags on fastballs out of the zone is so high, it just takes a lot to cover the distance between the whiff rates. But the projection for me, both are very projectable. I just think Cags, if he changes his approach, which he already showed he could do it. You don't triple your walk rate and have your strikeout rate without having the aptitude and the ability right there. So that just shows me once he further refines it, starts laying off a lot of those early count bad pitches, gets himself in more hitting counts. I mean, to me, his upside is much greater than Condon, even though Condon does have an upside. People talk about the defensive versatility of Condon, and he does have it. He played some third, he played some left, he could play first. He's a little raw at each place. He's certainly not average at any of those places yet. Whereas Cags is, for me, from my eyes, he's already an above-average defender. He's only going to get a little bit better. You could put him in right field. There's intrigue there. And I know we've already taken him off the mound in this kind of conversation, but as a pitcher, he was a mid-late second rounder. He touches 99. He's got a little slurve ball, but his best off-speed pitch is a changeup. He's got 3 pitches. And like I said, again, just back to the athleticism. Baseball is about big, strong athletes. I know there's other guys that play the game. And that's why they have different positions and different guys fit different places. But there's not big, strong athlete like Cags. He's the dude.
David, question for you on what you mentioned at the top of the interview. You said it's been a good draft for many ball clubs. What do you mean by that? Do you feel like teams did what you thought they would or made smart moves? And if you want to kind of pinpoint any specific picks that you really like for particular teams, go ahead.
Yeah, I mentioned the Orioles, with the 2 college hitters leading off. And then the Rockies, I really like what the Rockies did. They obviously, when you're picking third, you can get Charlie Condon, that's huge there. But Brody Breck, in the round they got Brody Breck. Now, I'm not advocating he should have been a first rounder because I don't think you draft a guy that has a high probability of being a reliever with your first pick. But they got him 38th overall in the second round. There's nothing wrong with getting that. And then they backed it up with Jared Thomas. A high ceiling hitter from Texas. He played first base, but he's a better outfielder defensively, can play center. He's got some power, lowered his strikeout rate, improved his bat to ball. So I just really like how the Rockies piled up their picks. And the other one, the Rays, I got to pull them up here real quick. Theo Gillen, one of the best high school bats in the draft. And I know they got Petrie second round. And I like Petrie as a player, the second baseman from Kentucky. I'm sure there was I'm sure he did not get slot. Let's just put it that way. But then to follow that up with Tyler Bale, a high school shortstop here from Illinois, who was outstanding at the Prep Baseball All-American game, had a great spring. We saw him more as a kind of a mid-second rounder, and they got him towards the end. So I just really like how they used their money.
Yeah, teams are making good picks. Were you surprised that Chase Burns went second? I have to ask because we kind of asked everybody. David, most people had, Condon, Bazana, Burns, Weatherholt, Caglione. And then I should probably maybe take Burns out. It was like the 4 position players. And then you kind of had Burns as like the 5th guy. Are you surprised he went second to Cincinnati?
I'm somewhat surprised. Maybe not as surprised as some other picks, but yeah, when you're taking a pitcher second overall in a draft where there's not a lot of guys similar to Chase Burns, but he is a right-handed pitcher. I know Skeen's a right-handed pitcher, but he's the unicorn here. But I mean, I don't think it's a bad pick at all. Maybe somewhat surprising, but certainly not like a bad surprise. I mean, Chase Burns, he throws 101. He's got a 70 slider, a 70 cutter, and he also throws a changeup that he really doesn't have to throw that often, so people really don't know he has a fourth pitch, but he has a really solid feel for a fourth pitch. But I think it was a great pick. I mean, they could have went different directions. They just chose the arm or over Condon's bat or Cags' bat. My case, I had Cags 1-1, but again, drafts don't go always how you set up your personal draft board.
That is definitely the highest, though. That's the high right there, 1-1 for Jack Haggs.
Yeah,
David, great to have. Yeah.
No, yeah, Cags was 1-1 for me, and then I had Burns fifth. As you guys had him fifth, I had him fifth as well. So
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the time. Great to have you. Happy draft day one. Enjoy the next 2 rounds, and thanks for coming on.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure you check out everything that they've got going on over there at D1 Baseball as well, with David Seifert joining us on FT. We're going to take our last break on the Draft Takeover show, and then we are going to talk to Carter Holton, who was picked by the Atlanta Braves in round 2 next. What's up? We're back on FT. We saved the best for last. We got the biggest smile to finish off the show. It's Carter Holton, left-handed pitcher from Vanderbilt, getting selected by the Atlanta Braves in the second round. Congratulations, Carter. It is great to talk to you, and I can see how excited you are to be a part, or to maybe be a part of the Braves. That all that stuff has to go down first. But how excited were you to see your name selected?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Everything I've ever dreamed of. That's the reason I started playing baseball when I was 3 years old. So I think it's real, and it's awesome. It just feels great.
Hey, Carter, last time we had you on, you were like in your dorm room with your unmade bed and you had like stuffed animals everywhere. Are we now able to get rid of that and actually like get a real room?
Maybe so. I might go back to it just because.
Hey, it worked, right?
Yeah, it did work. That's
There's
true.
a lot of fun there.
It worked. You
Yeah.
got to stick with it.
Yeah, for sure.
He never went to college, Carter, so you have to excuse him. He was a high school pick.
I graduated, I think.
Barely.
Hey, how was this experience for you? You know, like take me through your day, even the wake up and what are you thinking and who were you talking to, communicating with, you know, family, friends, the whole deal. How did you find out that you got picked?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing about today as a whole was it felt like it took forever. Just being able to not let things speed up. But I mean, it was my family's here, my close family, and a couple of my friends from home, my girlfriend. That's why I stayed around the whole day, and we just stuck it out together. And finally, whenever we heard my name called, it was just awesome.
Okay, Carter, you're from Savannah. I'm from Perry, which is a little bit down the road, down 16. But so growing up, were you a Braves fan? Was this the hometown team picking you, or was this okay? It was okay, but or was this something that your whole family is decked out in been decked out in red and blue and all for years, and this is the hometown team picking you?
Yeah, it's definitely the hometown team picking me. I'm not sure how many closets in here have Braves hats thrown on them, so it actually worked out in the end for us, and definitely feel for me, but as well as family and friends.
So also, Carter, the other thing that jumps out is because you've been pitching at Vandy, because you've been in the SEC, there were a lot of names called tonight on the hitter side that you got to face this year. Condon. I mean, we could just go down. I don't need to list them all. Okay, I will put you on the spot a little bit. Who's the guy of the guys who are taking? Who's the guy that you're like, I really don't ever want to face that guy again if I can avoid it? And who's the guy you're like, no, I like facing him. I've got his number. Is there anyone that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at every person that was taken in front of me that came out and they're all great hitters. I think that they're all challenging in their own way. I mean, if you look at yard, and then I found trouble catching him. His arms are long that he's able to get to balls that aren't even that's between him and some other guys. But I think it's really just I'm going to more in the hopefully that.
Carter, unfortunately, the last question there, we kind of had the audio breaking up, but we got some good stuff, and I want you to go keep celebrating and enjoy. Also, might as well, because we brought you on a few months back, give a mention to everyone, TeaseEnergy.com. There are Carter Holton pouches out there. No nicotine, no tobacco. He's a Tease ambassador. It's a big fan friend of FT. Sales are going to pop. You can get it at some of the local stores around Vandy as well. Carter, congratulations again. It was awesome to have you on moments after getting picked.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Carter Holton, Vanderbilt, and picked by the Atlanta Braves. And again, yeah, that's TeaseEnergy.com, and you can use the code FOUL over there for 20% off your first order, but you can get Carter Holton pucks, no nicotine, no tobacco, the whole deal. We're a big fan, there they are, of Teasa. There's the discount code for you at TeaseEnergy.com. And now it is time to recap day one of the draft. It is officially over. So first off, props to our whole team behind the scenes and to the Baseball America crew for an awesome few days here so far. JJ, I know you're doing a million things at once, but you were awesome today. So let's try and recap, though. Let's kind of go back to the top for a moment and get your take on how surprising the first 30 minutes of the draft played out.
The funny thing about it is that the tricky part about this is we're at the point still right now where we're trying to tell the story of a movie and we've only seen the first act, right? Because when we talk about like, oh, well, this team took, we're surprised that Burns went. Well, then, by the way, the Reds went back pitcher again, Luke Holman in the second round, and a competitive balance pick, I should say, they're really going pitching heavy. You look at like, okay, well, the Rockies, what they did, and then Condon, and then they added this power arm. So we don't know what's going to happen yet tomorrow, where we're going to see another, a slew of picks. We don't know what's going to happen on day 3, but especially tomorrow, because really, you're not going to say that your draft ever truly changes on day 3, but it can change on day 2. So as I look at the top of this draft, it was a little surprising in some ways, but it was within the realm of normal surprise, right? We thought that this was a year where you could make an argument. We just saw David Seifert, making the argument for a guy who a lot of people saw at 5. But you could make the argument for 1 through 6 or 7 all being really bunched together. And we saw that happen a little bit today. But that doesn't mean anything. We're not going to know the answer for that for a while, which is, okay, Was it Bazana? Was it Condon? Was it Weatherholt? Was it Kaggs? Was it Burns? Was it Hagen Smith? We're going to find out 5, 10, 15 years from now. But the thing that does jump out about day one is that we saw teams. I would say that there were some picks that was like, okay, that's a money saver, not to save money to put in their pocket, but to spread it around. But at the top of the draft, really what we saw is we saw teams target talent. They just targeted a little differently than maybe we expected.
The other thing I want to bring up that we didn't get to during this show was the lottery. So it's starting to really make an impact. And I think it's an important part of our sport. It's something that the players' side had to fight for in the collective bargaining agreement. It's true. It's weird, JJ. I brought this up on Foul Territory on certain days. I'm like, the fact that there has to be a battle over competitiveness is strange, but we can't have teams tanking and just picking towards the top of the draft year after year. And it's not just the pick, it's the bonus money that goes with it too. And we do get to start to see that play out. Now, of course, there's the punishment on the other side where teams like the Mets, the Padres, the Yankees get pushed 10 picks back because they tried too hard. They spent too much money in the offseason. But, we do see a team like the Reds really benefit. They would have the 13th pick. Instead, they get the second overall pick and get their
changes
pitcher.
Their draft entirely.
Totally changes their draft, gives them a lot of money, right? The Nationals would have had the 5th overall pick this year. Instead, the draft lottery bounces them to 10.
They'd have had one.
They what?
They would have had one. I was in the room. They got picked, but they weren't allowed to be picked.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well,
that's the
yes.
White Sox. That's the White Sox next year, right? I mean, They can lose 110
but that's from
games,
the lottery.
Right.
But
Yeah.
they can't pick in front of 10 next year.
Right. But the Nationals literally won the lottery twice. And it's like, nope, no, do it again.
Right. They had the 5th worst record last year, so if you go years back. But yes, I know what you're saying, where it's like, hey, sorry, you can't keep picking towards the top of a draft. So it makes a big difference here for many of the teams. I know, Arizona had a little run that we went over earlier, but they have a lot of pool money, and they had picks 29, 31, 35. So you see a few trends stand out. But overall, I imagine that you're a fan of the draft lottery playing out this way. We get to see some different teams towards the top.
I think the subtle part about it that gets lost is those competitive balance picks, which is the closest thing we have in baseball to like, here, we're going to give you something for being a small market or a small revenue team, right? Basically, you just get extra picks. Now, they may be here, they may be there, but you just get extra picks. You don't, unless they trade for them, you're never seeing the Yankees or the Dodgers with competitive balance, pick, round A, pick whatever. They don't get those. You put it all together. I mean, in some ways, you could still argue in baseball that it's kind of like pointing, a garden hose at a fire when you talk about the revenue disparities between the largest teams and the smallest teams. But it is something that's being done, and that wasn't being done not that many years ago. It does make a difference because it does. You have these smaller revenue teams say, we can't compete for free agents. We can't compete for this. We're not going to be able to spend as much money. Well, then the only other way to do it is to build from within. Well, this is a way that it is basically saying, here, we're just going to give you an extra, not just picks, but extra money, essentially, bonus pool money to spend in the draft. That does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Last thoughts?
We made it.
Hey, credit to anyone that was watching, obviously, on YouTube and also on Valley Sports TV or on the app. Please send us a note either on Instagram at Foul Territory Show. Send us a tweet at Foul Territory TV. Check out our YouTube channel. Send us a note, though, if you were sticking with us the whole time. And we appreciate that, obviously. It's first year really doing this full-fledged the way we did in Texas. And also, let's slap. That's what we do at the end of every FT show. We slap hands, and we tell you that we have regular programming for FT from 12 to 2 Central Time, 1 to 3 Eastern Time, like we do every single weekday on YouTube, on Valley Sports, and on Marquee as well. Final thought about the draft this year? You were prepping. I saw you.
We talked so much about, like, should this guy have been taken? Should he have not been taken? Everybody got taken today. is one step closer to fulfilling their dream of being one of 23,186 people that ever play in the big leagues. And you can't take that away from those people, and everybody's got a shot now.
And they're all millionaires. Everybody from 1 through 30 gets a mill.
1
at
through
least,
30.
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I know, but 1
the
through
next
30.
But today, the ones picked today who signed, they're millionaires.
Yeah,
Not the
millionaires.
70. Not up to 70.
Not the 70.
No,
the round
no.
one. The round one. Sorry,
Round one.
Round one.
The
not
first
full
rounders.
Day one.
Yes.
I'll do the other version about how hard it is to be a big leaguer. Little over 2 position players, around 3 pitchers on average per team per draft make the majors for one game. We got 20 rounds. It's a whole lot of players who are professionals, but they don't make it. Like if you look at it, you may think, we just did this research this last couple of weeks. There are drafts where there are 60, 65 position players in the entire class who make it to the majors for one game. So the ones who do make it, you mentioned 23,000. Like you can fit them all in that stadium here at Globe Life. Every player who ever has played in the majors in Major League Baseball, I should say, because we've added now, Negro leagues and all, makes the number a little bigger, but less than that. And then you talk about in the draft, we're going to talk about 20 rounds, but on average, five picks out of those 20 rounds for a team are going to make it to the majors. And that's even if you went 0 for 1, that counts. If you're Ron Wright, you hit into a triple play in your only game in the majors, that counts.
That counts. I love looking back at past drafts. I mean, it'll take some time, but I love looking back at past drafts and be like, oh, so-and-so, he was taken 5th? Who the heck got taken before him? And sometimes you're like, who the heck is that? It happens, even towards the top of a draft. So want to remind everyone, the rest of the FT network will be kicking up on Monday. AJ is protecting us from flies. Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal on Monday will get posted as usual on the FT YouTube channel. Type in Foul Territory.
When are we having Ken on Foul again?
Very soon. I know you guys had some fun
I got some
this
good
weekend.
stories
We have
about
Ken on Tuesday. Ken will join us on Tuesday. We're scheduled to have John Smoltz join us on Tuesday. We're going to have some players joining us tomorrow. As I mentioned maybe 20 minutes ago, Shota Imanaga is going to lead off the show with us on Monday. Very excited. And he has a ton of personality. He's fun to watch on the mound, but he's got jokes. He's not a cookie-cutter answer guy. He fits the FT mold of what we're looking for in a show. And then tomorrow after Foul Territory runs 1 to 3, you can check out Dodgers Territory. They'll talk about what's going on with the Derby and the All-Star game. We'll give you a Home Run Derby preview tomorrow leading up to the Derby event, and then All-Star pregame show on Tuesday on Valley Sports Marquee and on Foul Territory YouTube show. We did it. Good job. We did it.
74 picks?
74 picks. We were hustling.
Whole ton of guests.
Congratulations to all the picks that were selected in day 1, and thank you so much for watching the FT Takeover in Texas.